But first, we've been played for suckers. Now, I knew it was a mistake. I said it here, sending Energy Minister Chris Bowen to the latest United Nations climate conference in Egypt. He's a global warming true believer, and they sure must have seen him coming. They quickly made Bowen co-chairman of a discussion to force rich countries like ours to pay, say activists, $2 trillion a year, $2,000 billion a year to poor countries for the supposed damage caused by our emissions. Now, Bowen on that committee was like a turkey voting for Christmas. And here is what a turkey looks like after it's been cooked. This is the photo. Bowen has just tweeted himself celebrating with his co-chair from India that fact that this UN conference has agreed, yes, let's have this big slush fund. Now, this conference voted for this climate fund, although key details have been left to the next conference. Great excuse to meet again. Details like how much exactly will countries like ours have to pay? Should China, the world's biggest emitter by far, also pay? Will it really be one of the supposedly poor countries with its hand in that money box? Now, Opposition Leader Peter Dutton today asked the obvious question.
The government has just signed up to funding a $2 trillion loss and damage climate fund, which will send money overseas and beyond our region. Prime Minister, doesn't charity begin at home? And when will you start helping Australian families instead of giving away their money?
But watch this. How do you think Prime Minister Anthony Albanese responded to that pretty obvious question? Did he say, yes, we will pay, and it's going to cost Australia X amount, roughly? Or did he say, yes, we did sign up, but don't worry, we won't actually pay? Neither. Albanese did not level with voters. He instead played the race card to shut down debate.
The idea that any foreign aid is giving Australians money to foreigners ahead of Australian interests, the Leader of the Opposition knows better than exactly what he is doing with that question. He knows exactly. And the only people who are pleased about that question are the people sitting in the corner up there, because they represent seats that have rejected that sort of dog-whistling tactic.
Now, the closest the Prime Minister got to defending this slush fund was this misleading statement.
For a political party who say that Australia reducing our emissions isn't good enough because we need a global reduction in emissions, but then to press that button shows the contradiction which is there.
Wrong, wrong and wrong. This fund is not about cutting emissions here or abroad. It is instead part of a cargo cult. Like I say, a giant slush fund to pay for our alleged sins, to pay for the alleged damage we've caused. But what damage? I mean, we now have fewer hurricanes. Just ask our Bureau of Meteorology. Fewer hurricanes and cyclones. We have record grain crops around the world in this past decade. And the planet's getting greener, says NASA. And shouldn't we be thanked for that? And what's more, nearly half the low-lying atoll islands in the Pacific are actually growing. And most of the rest aren't changing at all in size, says Auckland University researchers. That sinking island scare is a myth. So what damage are we actually compensating for? Now, it's true there have been droughts and floods, but we've always had them. And even the UN's hand-picked climate scientists admit it's hard to pick what difference our emissions have made to the ones we've seen. So really, this climate fund is an excuse for socialists to rob the rich to pay the poor. Or in this case, more accurately, for taking money from poor people in rich countries like ours and giving it to rich people in poor countries. And no wonder those leaders of poor countries are red hot on global warming. I mean, just free money for them. With Bowen helping to shovel it out the door. But really, if we're talking about what we have done to poor countries, shouldn't we get some deductions? Did Chris Bowen ask? For instance, the West gave the world penicillin. Can we get a discount for that, please? We invented electricity as well. Can you take that bit off our bill, a little deduction for that? We rich countries also invented all kinds of medicines. We invented washing machines and air conditioners and cars and smartphones and lots of other things that made life, even in poorer countries, a lot easier. New agricultural techniques, fertilisers to make food cheaper than it's ever been. So what exactly are we meant to be paying for? And a question like that really demands a better answer from the Prime Minister than, "You're a racist."